kids. It's me, Mr. Verdi. If you're like me, or if you're like my wife, you're wondering, what's that guy doing all day? Okay? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing during my break. Okay? Sometimes I'm up here in the attic, okay, when I've got my desk, I work diligently. I take breaks, right? I yell at my kids, hey, quiet down there. Okay? I eat. I eat a lot. I go to the fridge, okay, go to the cupboard, I sneak some snacks up here. Lots of food breaks. I paint my basement, the utility side where it's nasty. And lastly, I try to exercise. Very important. Okay? And maybe you're like me and you're wondering, where do I get the energy for all that exercise, right? Well, today we're going to focus on the metabolic pathways that your muscles use for energy, okay? Now, C point A, the energy comes from food. We know that. We're not photosynthetic. It's not coming from the sun. But then the question is there's a couple options on how your body and your muscles specifically can go about getting that energy from their food, right? And then which series of steps am I going to go down to replenish the ATP that was broken during the cross-bridge cycling? Okay? Well, let's start with the first one. Okay, and we're going to really go, when I say start with the first one, we're going to go in order of short duration exercise to long-term exercise. So the first one, creatine. Okay, when you're doing max reps, one, done, take it, Karen, take it. Mrs. Verdi spotted me in the basement, you can imagine. Okay, so when you do explosive exercises, right, lunge jumps, when you jump, or a tuck jump, when you're standing your drive, when you jump with your knees as high in the air as you can, you come down, you're going to use this, what we call the phosphagen system. Okay, or sorry, the phosphagen system. What you're going to use is you're going to use this thing called creatine phosphate, which you find in skeletal muscle. Creatine phosphate is hanging over there, and it's got a little phosphate attached to it. Okay? Well, when your muscles break down ATP, they hydrolyze it into ADP. We need to get it back in the ATP step. The first place your muscles will go, first 8 to 10 seconds of your exercise, you'll have stored creatine phosphate in your muscles. Okay? So you use that ATP breaks, and now you got this ADP, which needs one more phosphate to break the cross-bridge cycle. We're going to grab a phosphate from this molecule called creatine phosphate. It just holds a phosphate for us for a rainy day. Okay, creatine phosphate is used in explosive exercises. Okay, and it's going to be all used up, I would say, within 8 to 10 seconds, depending on the athlete, the metabolic state, and stuff like that. But, on graphs, you'll see like 10 seconds, so it's hard to say, okay? So if your workout's going to last 35, 45 seconds, right? If you're doing a rep, let's think about a 400-meter near sprint. The creatine phosphate is going to be used up probably before you've hit the turn, all right? So you're done with the creatine phosphate. You've used all the phosphates you can use from there. We're going to use the glycolytic pathway for, you can imagine, a 400-meter sprint or as many push-ups as you can do. How long does that usually last? 45 seconds, maybe 50 seconds. We should time some of you guys could time yourselves. But what we're going to do there is we're going to do mostly glycolysis, okay? So creatine phosphates will get us stored ATP, then creatine phosphate, then glycolysis, the cutting of sugars, in general without oxygen, okay? The glycolytic pathway implies oxygen is not present, okay? And you can use that to sustain energy bouts or high energy workouts for about 30 seconds, 45 seconds max will be 45 seconds. I used to tell kids 10 or 11 seconds, but doing some reading, there might be more, okay? You can imagine in a 100-meter sprint, that the only breathing you've got to do is breathing out. You don't have time you can breathe in oxygen, but you've got these bulging muscles. They're going to compress arteries and veins, okay? Okay, last system is the aerobic metabolic system. So the aerobic implies needing oxygen, okay? Aerobic workouts are anything that bouts of that last more than 2 minutes, you're going to be doing aerobic respiration. You can imagine, what kind of exercise can you do that takes more than 2 minutes? Well, it won't be as explosive, right? It won't be max effort, but aerobic is going to be a continuous effort that you can use based on how much shape you're in to run a 4-hour marathon. It'll be almost only the aerobic pathway, right? Because if you're not breathing oxygen, your cells are dying after about 3 minutes. Okay, so the aerobic pathway is the pathway we're using right now. All right, as we just sit here and maybe you're waking up, drinking your coffee, or maybe it's 3 a.m. and you're watching this video and you're just getting your day going. Whatever it might be, the aerobic pathway provides the most bang for buck as far as ATP per sugar molecule. Okay, glycolysis benefits, the glycolytic pathway, the benefits are it's quick and it's fast. But the drawback is we don't get as much ATP per sugar molecule. Okay, so the 3 pathways, the phosphagen system, we're going to use for explosive workouts. You can imagine Maddie on the diving board, she explodes off that diving board. Phosphagen system. Okay, you can imagine a max bench press, 4 seconds, right? Creatine phosphate. Okay, now you can imagine 12 reps on the bench in benching, right? Probably going to do some glycolytic pathway. Okay, you're going to have to break down some sugars, but you're going to have to do it quick. All right, we have to remind our 8th grade lifters, remember to breathe during your lift, man, because sometimes they can get away without it. All right, it's a glycolytic pathway. All right, aerobic workouts, those are anything that are going to last, more than, once you're past the 3-minute mark of your rep, okay, or the 2-minute mark, you're going to be almost purely aerobic in your way of regenerating ATP. All right, guys, more to come later. Now, a word from our YouTube commercial sponsor.